Harsh reality. The Biggest Loser was a reality TV show that depicted intense weight loss. Most participants slimmed down incredibly on this show. Researchers conducted a long-term study on these participants. All but one of the contestants regained a massive amount of weight back. Some contestants gained even more weight than before the show when they started, even when they were trying consistently to stay thin. Homeostasis maintains a consistent internal environment, the example of thermoregulation. The body is viewed as a self-contained environment. It regulates acidity, saltiness, water level, oxygenation, temperature, and energy. Homeostasis is an active regulation of the monitored physical attributes at appropriate levels, resulting in a stable and balanced internal environment. It keeps parameters constant. Motivation is a drive state that prompts homeostatic behaviors. This is due to an imbalance between the real internal state and the ideal internal state of the body. Obligatory losses are unavoidable losses of regulated variables as a consequence of life processes. Examples of these include respiration, perspiration, and urination. Thermoregulation is an active process of closely regulating body temperature around a set value. Homeostatic systems share several key features. Endotherms are animals whose body temperature is regulated chiefly by internal metabolic processes. Examples of these kinds of animals are mammals and birds. Ectotherms are animals whose body temperature is regulated by and also heat comes from the environment. Examples of these are snakes and bees. Endotherms compared to ectotherms range more widely, contain greater capacity for oxygen, and sustain high levels of muscular activity for longer periods of time. Negative feedback. Negative feedback is a property by which some of the output of a system feeds back to reduce the effect of the output signals. A set point is the point of reference in a feedback system. An example of a set point is a temperature setting on a thermostat. A set zone is a range of a variable that a feedback system tries to maintain. There is typically a set zone used compared to a set point. The mammal body temperature range is about 36 to 38 degrees Celsius or 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The mammalian body decreases temperature during sleep and increases temperature to fight infection, often in a fever. If the body gets too hot, proteins are denatured or can die. If the body gets too cold, chemical reactions are too slow and cells could die. Some species that live in very cold environments have adapted to produce antifreeze, which is a protein molecule that combats the cold and prevents damage like this. Redundancy. Bodies have multiple mechanisms and backup systems. There is redundancy in the body found in generation of heat, cooling, and thermoregulatory control systems. An example of this kind of mechanism is that two different hypothalamic sites control two different thermoregulatory systems. Behavioral homeostasis. 3 kinds of behavior regulate temperature. These are change of exposure of body surface, which includes huddling or extending limbs. Second, change external insulation, which includes clothing or nests. And third, change surroundings, which is moving into the sunshine or moving into the shade. Behavioral methods are especially important for ectotherms. Basic mammalian thermoregulatory system is that receptors detect temperature and then send information to 3 regions: the spinal cord, brainstem, and hypothalamus. If the body temperature moves outside this set zone, each region initiates psychological and behavioral responses to return the balance to the set zone. Allostasis is a coordinated set of behavioral and physiological changes to maintain homeostasis. An allostatic load is the associated cost of allostasis, and it's part of everyday life. Fluid regulation. The body has a balance of fluid and salt. A change in this balance can be fatal. The intracellular compartment is the fluid space of the body that is contained within cells. The extracellular compartment is the fluid space of the body that exists outside the cells, which is divided by the interstitial fluid and the blood plasma. Aquaporins are channels spanning the cell membrane that are specialized for conducting water molecules into or out of the cell. Diffusion is the spontaneous spread of molecules of one substance among molecules of another substance until a uniform concentration is achieved. This involves semipermeable or selectively permeable membrane. Osmosis also includes these membranes. Osmosis is the passive movement of water molecules from one place to another until a uniform concentration is achieved. Osmotic pressure is the tendency of a solvent to move through a membrane to equalize the concentration of solute. It is the force that pushes or pulls water across a membrane. Osmolality is the number of solute particles per unit volume of solvent. In mammals, this is about 0.9%. Isotonic refers to a solution with a concentration of salt that is the same as extracellular component. Hypertonic refers to a solution with a higher concentration of salt than is of the extracellular component. Hypotonic refers to a solution with a lower concentration of salt than compared to the extracellular component. Extracellular fluid serves as a buffer to conserve water as well as a reservoir. Two internal cues trigger thirst. There are two main kinds of thirst. Osmotic thirst, which is the want to ingest fluids that is stimulated by a high concentration of solute in the extracellular compartment. This reduces the intracellular fluid. The second kind is hypovolemic thirst, which is the want to ingest fluids that is stimulated by a reduced volume of extracellular fluid. Osmotic thirst is triggered by increased saltiness of the extracellular fluid. This thirst is typically a response to obligatory losses. Volume of extracellular fluid decreases, solute concentration increases in this instance. Water is pulled out of the cells in this process. Also, eating food high in salt draws water out of the cells by osmosis and increases in solute concentration of the extracellular fluid. This is independent of volume of the extracellular fluid. Hypothalamic cells are found to be important in changes in osmotic pressure. Osmosensory neurons are specialized neurons that measure the movement of water into and out of the cells. They have been found to be located in various regions of the hypothalamus, and these neurons are flexible and they shrink or stretch in response to changes in the balance of the cell.